Awaken the hidden power within. Introduction. The sleeping giant within. There is a moment in every soul's journey when the ordinary world grows thin, when the patterns of daily existence feel hollow against the weight of something deeper, stirring. You have felt it, haven't you? That quiet restlessness, that gentle ache in your chest when you gaze at stars or hear music that moves you beyond reason. It is not dissatisfaction, it is recognition, the soul remembering what it came here to accomplish. Within you lies a power so vast, so magnificent, that if you could glimpse even a fraction of its truth, you would understand why the great teachers throughout history spoke of human divinity. This is not metaphor or wishful thinking. This is the fundamental reality of your existence, carefully veiled by layers of conditioning, doubt, and the beautiful distraction of being human. Tony Robbins discovered this power during his own dark night of the soul, when at 19 years old, he weighed 280 pounds, lived in a cramped bachelor apartment, and earned barely enough to survive. His transformation didn't come through luck or circumstance. It came through the systematic awakening of forces that had always been present within him. He learned to harness the fundamental truth that every human being possesses unlimited potential, waiting only for the right key to unlock it. Eckhart Tolle's awakening arrived even more dramatically. On his 29th birthday, consumed by depression and suicidal thoughts, he experienced what he describes as a complete dissolution of his identity, followed by a peace so profound it transformed his entire existence. In that moment of surrender, he discovered that beneath the constant chatter of the mind lies an infinite stillness, a presence that is both deeply personal and universally connected to all life. Louise Hay's journey to discovering her inner power emerged from the depths of childhood trauma, abuse, and later, a diagnosis of vaginal cancer. Rather than accepting defeat, she embarked on a radical experiment in self-love and affirmation-based healing. 6 months later, she was completely cancer-free, having discovered that the mind's capacity for healing extends far beyond what conventional wisdom accepts as possible. These three luminaries understood what the ancient wisdom traditions have always known, that consciousness is not merely a byproduct of brain activity, but the fundamental creative force of the universe expressing itself through your unique perspective. You are not a physical being having a spiritual experience, but eternal awareness temporarily focused through the lens of human form. This shift in understanding is not philosophical, is the foundation upon which all true transformation occurs. The hidden power within you operates through layers of your being, each more subtle and profound than the last. At the surface level, it manifests as the ability to change your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. This is the realm where most personal development work begins, learning to manage your mind, develop empowering habits, and create the life you consciously desire. But beneath this lies a deeper layer where the power reveals itself as the capacity to transform your entire identity. Here you learn that you are not a collection of stories, roles, and labels that define your everyday existence. You begin to experience yourself as the awareness that observes these changing patterns, the consciousness that remains unchanged regardless of what thoughts, emotions, or circumstances arise. At the deepest level, this power reveals its ultimate nature. You are the creative intelligence of the universe itself, temporarily focused through the unique prism of your individual perspective. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, every action you take sends ripples through the fabric of reality, shaping not only your personal experience, but contributing to the collective evolution of human consciousness. This understanding fundamentally alters how you approach life's challenges and opportunities. Instead of seeing yourself as at the mercy of external circumstances, you begin to recognize that every situation is an invitation to express your true nature more fully. Problems become doorways to growth. Limitations become launching pads for creativity. Pain becomes the raw material for compassion. The journey of awakening this power is not about adding something to yourself that is missing. It is about removing the layers of conditioning that obscure what has always been present. It is about remembering your true nature after having forgotten it so completely that the remembering feels like a revelation. This process of awakening happens in stages, each building upon the previous, each revealing new dimensions of your innate magnificence. It begins with the recognition that change is possible, that you are not condemned to repeat the patterns of your past indefinitely. This spark of possibility, however small, is already the power beginning to stir. As awareness grows, you start to notice the difference between reacting unconsciously to life and responding consciously. You develop what Robbins calls emotional fitness, the ability to experience the full spectrum of human feeling while maintaining your center. You learn To's practice of presence, anchoring awareness in the eternal now, rather than getting lost in mental projections of past and future. You embrace Hay's teachings on self-love, treating yourself with the same compassion you would offer a beloved friend. These practices may seem simple, but they are profoundly revolutionary. In a world that constantly pulls your attention outward, the decision to turn within and cultivate inner awareness is an act of rebellion against unconscious living. It is a declaration that you will no longer be content to drift through life on autopilot, but will instead take conscious participation in your own becoming. The hidden power within you is not waiting for permission to emerge. It is not waiting for the perfect circumstances, the right relationships, or external validation. It is waiting only for your recognition and invitation. The moment you truly understand that this power exists within you, not as potential to be developed, but as reality to be unveiled, everything changes. Your cells begin to vibrate with new possibility. Your thoughts spontaneously reorganize around empowering themes. Your emotions stabilize into deeper currents of peace and joy. Your actions become naturally aligned with your highest vision. This is not the result of effort or striving, but of finally allowing what was always true to express itself without obstruction. The ancient ones called this awakening by many names: enlightenment, self-realization, Christ consciousness, Buddha nature. These are not lofty spiritual concepts removed from daily life, but descriptions of the most practical and transformative understanding available to human consciousness. When you awaken to your true nature, every aspect of your existence, your relationships, your work, your health, your creative expression, becomes a vehicle for the infinite to know itself more fully. This is the great secret that transforms ordinary living into extraordinary being. You are not just a person seeking connection to something greater. You are the something greater, temporarily expressing itself as a person. The hidden power within you is not separate from the creative force that spins galaxies and orchestrates the dance of atoms. It is that same intelligence focused through the magnificent complexity of your human awareness. The journey we are about to embark upon, together, will reveal practical methods for accessing and expressing this power in every area of your life. These are not theories or concepts, but living practices that have transformed millions of lives. They work because they align you with the deepest truths of your being, allowing your natural brilliance to shine through the accumulated layers of fear, doubt, and limitation. Are you ready to remember who you truly are? Are you prepared to discover that the power you have been seeking outside yourself has been patiently waiting within all along? The awakening begins now, with your willingness to look beyond the surface of things and glimpse the infinite potential that is your birthright. Chapter 1. The Awakening, Breaking Free from Limiting Beliefs. Deep within the architecture of human consciousness lies a collection of invisible chains, forged not from metal, but from repeated thoughts, inherited assumptions, and unconscious agreements with limitation. These are the beliefs that whisper you are not enough, that dreams are for others, that safety lies in remaining small. Yet every belief, no matter how deeply rooted or how long held, is simply a thought you have chosen to think repeatedly until it feels like truth. Tony Robbins understood this principle intimately when he began studying the patterns that separate those who achieve extraordinary results from those who struggle with the same circumstances. He discovered that the primary difference was not talent, luck, or resources, but the quality of beliefs people held about what was possible for their lives. Those with empowering beliefs found ways to succeed even when facing seemingly impossible odds, while those with limiting beliefs found evidence for failure even when surrounded by opportunity. Your beliefs operate like a filtering system, determining not only what you notice in your environment, but what you consider possible for yourself. They function as both the lens through which you view reality and the blueprint from which you construct your experience. When you believe deeply that you are capable, worthy, and destined for growth, your unconscious mind becomes a powerful ally, constantly scanning for opportunities and solutions that align with this truth. Conversely, when limiting beliefs dominate your inner landscape, They create a kind of psychological blindness, causing you to overlook possibilities and interpret neutral events as confirmation of your inadequacy. The most insidious aspect of limiting beliefs is their self-fulfilling nature. When you believe you will fail, you unconsciously sabotage your efforts or avoid taking action altogether, thus creating the very outcome you feared. Louise Hay recognized this pattern during her early work with affirmations and healing. She observed that people's physical ailments often corresponded directly to their deepest beliefs about themselves and their worthiness. Those who believed they deserved punishment manifested pain. Those who believed they were unloved created conditions that pushed others away. The body, she discovered, was simply responding to the mind's most fundamental convictions about what was true. The process of identifying limiting beliefs requires a kind of archaeological excavation of consciousness. These beliefs rarely announce themselves directly, but can be detected through their symptoms: recurring patterns of self-sabotage, persistent emotional reactions that seem disproportionate to circumstances, and the automatic thoughts that arise during challenging situations. One of the most common limiting beliefs is the conviction that you are fundamentally flawed or damaged beyond repair. This belief often originates from early experiences where love felt conditional, or where criticism was more prevalent than encouragement. It manifests as the inner voice that says you must hide your true self to be accepted, that you must achieve certain external markers of success to be worthy of love and respect. Another pervasive limiting belief revolves around scarcity, the assumption that there is not enough love, money, opportunity, or success to go around. This belief creates a competitive mindset, where others' gains represent your losses, where you must hoard resources and guard opportunities jealously. It generates anxiety about the future and prevents the generous, open-hearted approach that actually attracts abundance. Perhaps the most damaging limiting belief is the conviction that you are powerless to change your circumstances, that you are at the mercy of forces beyond your control. This belief transforms you from the author of your life story into a victim of circumstances, waiting for external salvation or permission to be happy, successful, or fulfilled. Eckhart Tolle addressed these limiting beliefs through the lens of presence and awareness. He taught that most beliefs are not actually your own, but are inherited patterns of thought, collective conditioning that you have absorbed unconsciously from family, culture, and society. The liberation comes not from fighting these beliefs, but from recognizing them as temporary mental formations, rather than ultimate truths about your nature. The practice of belief examination begins with developing witness consciousness, the ability to observe your thoughts and internal reactions without immediately identifying with them. When a limiting belief arises, instead of accepting it as fact, you learn to greet it with curiosity. Isn't that an interesting thought? I wonder where that came from. This shift from unconscious acceptance to conscious observation is the beginning of freedom. It creates space between you and your conditioned responses, allowing you to choose which thoughts to entertain and which to release. In this space of awareness, you discover that you are not your beliefs, but the consciousness that observes them. The transformation of limiting beliefs requires both insight and action. Insight alone is insufficient because beliefs are not merely intellectual positions, but embodied patterns that live in your nervous system, your emotional responses, and your automatic behaviors. They must be gradually unwound through patient practice and consistent application of new ways of thinking and being. Tony Robbins developed powerful techniques for rapid belief change, recognizing that transformation could occur much faster than traditional therapy suggested. His approach involves first identifying the emotional charge around limiting beliefs, then systematically replacing them with empowering alternatives that feel even more compelling and true. One of his most effective methods is the use of references, gathering evidence that contradicts limiting beliefs and supports empowering ones. If you believe you are not capable of success, you systematically recall every instance where you overcame challenges, learned new skills, or achieved goals that once seemed impossible. You build a case for your capability that becomes stronger than the case for your limitation. The practice of belief installation involves all levels of your being: mental, emotional, and physical. You don't just think new thoughts, you feel new emotions and embody new ways of moving through the world. You practice walking, talking, and breathing as someone who fully embodies your empowering beliefs, until these new patterns become as automatic as the old ones once were. Louise Hay's mirror work represents one of the most direct methods for transforming self-limiting beliefs. By looking into your own eyes and speaking words of love, acceptance and encouragement, you begin to reprogram the deepest layers of self-perception. The mirror reflects back not just your physical appearance, but your energy, your beliefs about your own worthiness, and your capacity for self-love. Initially, this practice often triggers intense resistance because it directly confronts the beliefs that have been protecting you through hiding and self-rejection. The critical inner voice may become louder, listing all the reasons why you don't deserve love or why positive self-talk is foolish and naive. This resistance is not a sign that the practice isn't working, but evidence that it's reaching the beliefs that most need healing. The process of belief transformation is not about forcing yourself to believe positive statements that feel untrue. Instead, it's about gradually expanding your identity to include more empowering possibilities. You begin with beliefs that feel slightly more positive but still credible. Then gradually increase the empowerment as your identity expands to accommodate new levels of self-worth and capability. Environmental conditioning plays a crucial role in maintaining both limiting and empowering beliefs. The people you spend time with, the media you consume, and the conversations you engage in, all either reinforce your limitations or support your expansion. Conscious belief transformation often requires curating your environment to align with your emerging identity. The most powerful beliefs are those that connect you to something larger than your individual concerns. When your beliefs about yourself align with beliefs about your purpose and contribution to others, they become nearly unshakable. You're not just worthy of success for your own sake, you're worthy because your growth and fulfillment serve the greater good. As limiting beliefs dissolve and empowering ones take their place, you begin to experience what Tony Robbins calls personal power, the deep knowing that you can handle whatever challenges arise and create whatever you choose to focus on consistently. This is not arrogance or wishful thinking, but the natural result of aligning your beliefs with the truth of your infinite potential. The journey of belief transformation is ultimately a journey of remembering your true nature. Beneath all the conditioning and accumulated limitations lies your essential self, whole, worthy, and infinitely creative. Every limiting belief you release brings you closer to this truth. Every empowering belief you embrace allows more of your authentic power to shine through the filters of personality and circumstance. This awakening to your true beliefs, not the ones you inherited, but the ones that serve your highest expression, marks the beginning of conscious living. No longer are you at the mercy of unconscious programming or cultural conditioning. You become the conscious creator of your inner world, and from that foundation, you begin to create consciously in the outer world as well. Chapter 2. The Power of Present Moment Awareness. In this very instant, as your eyes move across these words, miracles are occurring within you. Your heart beats approximately 72 times per minute without your conscious direction. Your lungs expand and contract, drawing life-sustaining oxygen from the air around you. Billions of cells throughout your body perform their intricate dance of metabolism, repair, and renewal. The magnificent orchestration of your existence unfolds continuously in the eternal now. Yet how often are you actually present to witness this wonder? How frequently does your awareness rest in the immediate reality of this moment rather than wandering through landscapes of memory or projection? For most people, the present moment remains largely unexplored territory, a thin slice of experience quickly bypassed in the rush towards some imagined future destination, or the familiar territory of past experiences. Eckhart Tolle's groundbreaking insight revealed that the present moment is not simply one point on a timeline of experience, but the only place where life actually occurs. The past exists only as memory traces in present moment consciousness. The future exists only as imagination and projection happening now. Everything you have ever experienced, every emotion you have felt, every thought you have thought, every action you have taken, all of it occurred in some version of now. This recognition fundamentally shifts your relationship with time and transforms your understanding of where your power resides. When you believe that fulfillment, happiness, or success lies in some future moment, you unconsciously postpone your full engagement with life. You live in a perpetual state of waiting, of preparation, of hoping that someday conditions will be just right for you to be completely present and alive. Conversely, when you anchor your awareness in present moment reality, you discover that the power to think, feel, choose, and act exists only here and now. You cannot change anything in the past. It has already crystallized into memory. You cannot directly create anything in the future. You can only set intentions and take actions in the present that influence future outcomes. The practice of present moment awareness begins with the simple recognition that thinking about being present and actually being present are entirely different experiences. Thinking about the present moment is just another mental activity, another layer of conceptual overlay on immediate experience. True presence involves a subtle but profound shift from thinking about reality to directly experiencing it. This shift can be cultivated through what Tolo calls portal practices, simple techniques that anchor awareness in immediate sensory reality rather than mental commentary about that reality. The breath serves as one of the most accessible portals because it operates continuously in the present moment. You cannot breathe in the past or future. Each inhalation and exhalation occurs only now. When you bring conscious attention to your breathing, not controlling it, but simply witnessing its natural rhythm, you create a direct link between awareness and present moment reality. The mind may continue generating thoughts about past and future, but your primary attention rests in the immediate physical sensation of breath entering and leaving your body. Another powerful portal involves conscious attention to your inner body, the subtle energy field that animates your physical form. By bringing awareness to the aliveness within your hands, arms, torso, and legs, you contact a dimension of yourself that exists only in the present moment. This inner body awareness creates an instant refuge from mental proliferation and emotional reactivity. Tony Robbins incorporated present moment awareness into his understanding of peak performance states. He discovered that extraordinary achievement in any field requires what he calls complete engagements, a state where attention is so fully absorbed in the task at hand that self-consciousness, doubt, and distraction disappear. Athletes call this being in the zone. Artists refer to it as flow. Spiritual practitioners recognize it as meditation in action. These peak states share the common quality of present moment absorption. When awareness is completely unified with activity, a profound effectiveness emerges. Actions become effortless, yet precise. Decisions arise spontaneously from clear perception, rather than anxious analysis. Creativity flows freely without the interference of self-judgment or perfectionism. The cultivation of presence also transforms your relationship with emotions. Most emotional suffering stems from mentally resisting what is happening in the present moment, arguing with reality, wishing circumstances were different, or creating stories about what current events mean about your future. When you learn to meet present moment experience with acceptance rather than resistance, even challenging emotions lose their power to create suffering. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent to your circumstances. True presence actually enhances your capacity for appropriate response because you perceive situations clearly rather than through the distorting filter of mental projection. You respond to what is actually happening rather than reacting to your thoughts about what might happen or what has happened before. Louise Hay's approach to healing was fundamentally grounded in present moment awareness, though she expressed it through the language of self-love and affirmation. Her practice of mirror work requires complete presence, looking directly into your own eyes and speaking words of love and acceptance. This cannot be done while mentally rehearsing grocery lists or reliving yesterday's conversations. The mirror becomes a portal to present moment intimacy with yourself. In that direct encounter with your own reflection, all the mental stories about who you are or should be fade into the background. What remains is immediate, unfiltered contact with the being looking back at you, worthy of love, not because of past achievements or future potential, but simply because of the miracle of your present existence. Present moment awareness also reveals the illusory nature of psychological time, the mental habit of living in past regret or future anxiety, rather than present engagement. Clock time serves practical functions for coordination and planning, but psychological time creates unnecessary suffering by pulling awareness away from the only moment where life actually happens. When you examine closely, you discover that problems exist primarily in psychological time. In the immediate present moment, you are breathing, your heart is beating, sensations are arising and passing, thoughts are flowing through consciousness. These immediate realities may be pleasant or unpleasant, but they are simply what is occurring now. The transformation of immediate experience into problems happens through mental comparison with how things used to be, or how they should be, in the future. This insight doesn't minimize the importance of addressing practical challenges or working toward goals. Rather, it reveals that the most effective responses to any situation arise from present moment clarity, rather than anxious projection. When you respond to circumstances as some presence rather than reactivity, your actions become more intelligent, compassionate, and effective. The practice of presence also unveils the inherent completeness of each moment. The mind constantly creates the impression that the current moment is incomplete, that something is missing, that must be acquired or achieved for life to be truly satisfactory. This creates a perpetual state of seeking, of anticipating some future moment when things will finally be right. Presence reveals that this incompleteness is not a characteristic of reality, but a product of mental commentary. The present moment, exactly as it is, contains the fullness of life. Nothing is missing. Nothing needs to be added. The miracle of consciousness, the gift of awareness, the mystery of existence. All of this is completely available right now. This doesn't mean becoming complacent or abandoning all goals and aspirations. Instead, it means recognizing that fulfillment is not a destination, but a way of traveling. You can be completely at peace with the present moment, while simultaneously taking inspired action toward your vision. In fact, presence enhances your capacity for effective action, because it frees you from the mental interference that diminishes performance and clouds perception. Advanced present moment awareness reveals what Tolle calls the space of consciousness, the aware background in which all thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise and pass away. This space is not affected by the content of experience. It remains peaceful and unchanged regardless of whether thoughts are pleasant or disturbing, whether emotions are joyful or painful, whether circumstances are favorable or challenging. Recognizing yourself as this aware space rather than as the temporary contents of awareness represents a profound shift in identity. Instead of being someone to whom thoughts and emotions happen, you discover yourself as the conscious field in which all experience occurs. This shift doesn't eliminate thoughts and emotions but changes your relationship to them fundamentally. From this perspective, challenges become opportunities for deeper presence. Difficulties are no longer problems to be solved as quickly as possible, but invitations to strengthen your capacity for conscious response. Every moment of triggered reactivity becomes a portal for returning to presence. Every experience of stress or anxiety points toward thoughts and beliefs that are pulling you away from present moment awareness. The cultivation of presence is ultimately a practice of returning home, not to a physical location, but to your true nature as aware consciousness. This homecoming doesn't require years of training or exotic spiritual practices. It requires only the willingness to shift attention from mental commentary to immediate experience, from thinking about life to directly engaging with life as it unfolds in this eternal moment. In presence, you discover that the peace you have been seeking, the love you have been longing for, the fulfillment you have been pursuing, are not absent qualities to be acquired, but present realities to be recognized. The present moment is the doorway through which infinite possibility enters your experience. It is here, now, always, waiting for your simple recognition and acceptance. Chapter 3. Transforming through self-love and affirmations. In the quiet sanctuary of your own heart lies a love so powerful that it can heal decades of pain, transform limiting patterns that have persisted for generations, and awaken capacities you never knew existed. This is not the conditional love that depends on achievement, appearance, or approval from others. This is the unconditional love that recognizes your inherent worth simply because you exist, because consciousness chose to express itself through the unique vehicle of your being. Louise Hay's revolutionary understanding emerged from her recognition that the relationship you have with yourself forms the template for every other relationship in your life. When that foundational relationship is characterized by criticism, rejection, and conditional acceptance, these patterns inevitably replicate themselves in your interactions with others, your approach to work, and your relationship with life itself. Self-love, as Louise discovered during her journey of healing from cancer, is not narcissistic self-absorption or denial of areas needing growth. True self-love is a radical acceptance of yourself, exactly as you are right now, combined with a compassionate commitment to your continued evolution and healing. It means treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a beloved friend who was struggling. This fundamental shift in self-relationship begins with recognition of the internal dialogue that runs continuously in the background of your consciousness. For most people, this inner voice carries the accumulated criticism, judgment, and conditional acceptance they experienced in childhood and beyond. It operates like a harsh internal critic, constantly evaluating, comparing, and finding fault with your thoughts, feelings, and actions. The transformation of this inner dialogue represents one of the most profound shifts available to human consciousness. When you learn to speak to yourself with love, encouragement, and compassionate understanding, you create an internal environment where healing, growth, and creativity can flourish. Your nervous system relaxes, your immune system strengthens, your capacity for joy and connection expands naturally. Affirmations serve as a practical tool for this transformation, but they work most effectively when understood as statements of truth about your essential nature, rather than as attempts to convince yourself of something untrue. The most powerful affirmations don't feel like positive thinking, but like coming home to what you have always known, but temporarily forgotten. Louise Hay's approach to affirmations was grounded in her understanding that thoughts are creative forces, continuously shaping your physical health, emotional state, and life circumstances. She recognized that the thoughts you think most consistently become the beliefs that govern your unconscious responses, which in turn create the patterns that define your experience. The practice of affirmation becomes transformative when it engages not just the mind, but the whole being, thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. Simply repeating positive statements without emotional engagement rarely creates lasting change, because the deeper layers of conditioning remain untouched. However, when affirmations are spoken with genuine feeling and embodied through posture, breathing, and facial expression, they begin to reprogram the nervous system at fundamental levels. Tony Robbins understood this principle when he developed his concept of incantations, affirmations that engage the entire physiology through movement, vocal intensity, and emotional engagement. He recognized that lasting change requires shifting not just what you think, but how you embody those thoughts through your physical presence and emotional state. The creation of personally meaningful affirmations requires attunement to your specific patterns of self-limitation and the qualities you wish to develop. Generic positive statements may provide temporary encouragement, but the affirmations that create deep transformation speak directly to your soul's authentic needs and aspiration. One of the most fundamental areas requiring affirmative healing is self-worth. Many people carry deep conditioning that their value depends on external achievement, others' approval, or meeting impossible standards of perfection. Affirmations for self-worth directly address this conditioning. I am worthy of love simply because I exist. My value is inherent and cannot be diminished by circumstances. I deserve goodness not because of what I do, but because of who I am. Another crucial area involves self-forgiveness and the release of shame. Most people carry invisible burdens of guilt about past mistakes, poor decisions, or failure to live up to their own expectations. Healing affirmations address this directly. I forgive myself completely for all past mistakes. I am learning and growing from every experience. I treat my past self with the same compassion I would show a child who was learning. Physical healing affirmations work by addressing the emotional and mental patterns that often underlie physical symptoms. Louise Hay's work revealed specific correlations between emotional states and physical conditions, showing that affirmations addressing these underlying patterns could support remarkable healing. My body knows how to heal itself perfectly. Every cell in my body vibrates with health and vitality. I love and appreciate my body for all it does for me. Abundance affirmations address the scarcity conditioning that creates financial struggle and limits your capacity to receive life's goodness. I am open to receiving abundance from expected and unexpected sources. I deserve prosperity and use it for the highest good. Money flows to me easily and joyfully. Relationship affirmations heal patterns of unworthiness, fear of intimacy, or tendency to attract unhealthy connections. I attract loving, supportive people into my life. I communicate clearly and lovingly in all my relationships. I give and receive love freely and safely. The practice of mirror work represents one of Louise Hay's most profound contributions to self-healing. Looking directly into your own eyes, while speaking words of love and acceptance, creates an intimate encounter with yourself that bypasses mental resistance and reaches the deep places where healing is needed most urgently. Initially, mirror work often triggers intense emotional responses because it directly confronts the beliefs and conditioning that keep you feeling separate from love. The face looking back at you reflects not just your physical appearance but your entire relationship with yourself. All the acceptance and rejection, love and criticism, celebration and judgment you have experienced. The resistance that arises during mirror work is not a sign that the practice isn't working, but evidence that it's reaching the places that most need healing. The critical inner voice may become louder, listing all the reasons why you don't deserve love or why this practice is foolish. This resistance represents the protective mechanisms that have been guarding your heart from further hurt. Gentle persistence with mirror work gradually dissolves these protective barriers, allowing you to experience direct love for yourself without conditions or reservations. As this capacity grows, it naturally extends to your relationships with others, your approach to challenges, and your general engagement with life. The integration of self-love into daily life requires consistent practice and patience with your own learning process. Self-love is not a destination you reach, but a continuous practice of returning to kindness when you notice you've slipped into self-criticism. It means catching the harsh inner voice and choosing to speak to yourself as you would to someone you cherish. This practice transforms not only your relationship with yourself, but your entire life experience. When you genuinely love and accept yourself, you stop seeking validation from external sources. Your decisions arise from authentic desire rather than from attempts to gain approval or avoid criticism. Your relationships become more honest and intimate because you're no longer afraid that others will discover your unworthiness. Creative expression flourishes when supported by self-love, because the fear of judgment no longer constrains your willingness to explore and experiment. Career choices align more naturally with your authentic interests and talents, rather than with what you think will make you acceptable to others. Even mundane activities become more enjoyable when approached with self-compassion rather than driven by self-criticism. The physiological effects of self-love are profound and measurable. When you treat yourself with consistent kindness and acceptance, your nervous system shifts from chronic stress response into parasympathetic activation, the state where healing, creativity, and growth naturally occur. Your immune system strengthens, your sleep improves, your digestion becomes more efficient, your overall energy and vitality increase. Eckhart Tolle's understanding of self-love emerges from his recognition that your essential nature is already whole, already worthy, already connected to the source of all love. The practice of self-love, from his perspective, is not about improving yourself, but about removing the mental barriers that obscure your natural state of peace and joy. This perspective transforms affirmations from efforts to create positive states into remembrances of what is already true. When you affirm, "I am loved," you're not trying to convince yourself of something questionable, but recognizing the love that flows through existence itself, the love that brought you into being and sustains you in every moment. Self-love ultimately reveals itself as a gateway to universal love. When you learn to love yourself unconditionally with all your imperfections, mistakes, and areas of growth, you develop the capacity to love others with the same unconditional acceptance. You stop trying to change people to meet your needs and start appreciating them exactly as they are. This expansion of love creates a positive feedback loop that enhances every aspect of your life. The love you give returns multiplied. The acceptance you offer opens others to be more authentic in your presence. The compassion you embody inspires others to be more compassionate with themselves and those around them. The journey of self-love is ultimately a journey of remembering your true nature. Beneath all the conditioning, criticism, and accumulated hurt lies your essential self-radiant, worthy, and infinitely lovable. Every moment of self-compassion, every loving affirmation, every instance of choosing kindness over criticism removes another layer of forgetting and reveals more of the magnificent truth of who you are. Chapter 4. The Science of Achievement. Rewiring your mind. Within the intricate network of your nervous system lies the most sophisticated learning and adaptation mechanism known to science. Your brain contains approximately 86 billion neurons, each forming thousands of connections with other neurons, creating a web of complexity that dwarfs the most advanced computer networks. This magnificent organ possesses a quality that neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the ability to reorganize itself, form new neural pathways, and literally rewire its structure based on your thoughts, experiences, and repeated patterns of focus. Tony Robbins built his entire methodology around this scientific understanding, recognizing that lasting transformation requires not just changing what you think, but actually changing how your brain processes information at the neural level. He understood that every thought you think, every emotion you feel, and every action you take either strengthens existing neural pathways or creates new ones. Your brain is constantly reshaping itself based on what you repeatedly focus on, practice, and believe. This neuroplasticity means that no matter what patterns have dominated your life up to this point, you possess the biological capacity to create new patterns. The shy person can develop confidence, the anxious individual can cultivate calm, the scattered thinker can develop focus. These are not just psychological shifts but actual structural changes in brain organization that become more automatic with consistent practice. The process of rewiring your mind begins with understanding the difference between conscious and unconscious programming. Your conscious mind, located primarily in the prefrontal cortex, can process about 40 bits of information per second and is responsible for logical thinking, decision-making, and willpower. Your unconscious mind, operating through multiple brain structures, processes approximately 40 million bits of information per second and controls everything from your heartbeat to your automatic emotional responses to your habitual patterns of behavior. Most people attempt to create change through conscious willpower alone, which explains why New Year's resolutions and good intentions so often fail. Willpower is a limited resource that becomes depleted throughout the day, whereas unconscious programming operates continuously without effort or depletion. True transformation occurs when you learn to reprogram the unconscious patterns that drive automatic responses. Tony Robbins developed what he calls neuro-associative conditioning, a systematic approach to changing the unconscious associations that determine your emotional and behavioral responses. This process involves identifying the neural pathways that create unwanted patterns and then disrupting them while simultaneously creating and strengthening new pathways that support your desired outcomes. The foundation of neuro-associative conditioning rests on understanding that your brain makes decisions based on two fundamental drives: the desire to avoid pain and the desire to gain pleasure. Your unconscious mind constantly evaluates experiences, people, and situations based on whether they are associated with pleasure or pain in your neural network. These associations, not logical analysis, primarily determine your emotional responses and behavioral choices. If your unconscious mind associates exercise with pain, boredom, exhaustion, embarrassment, you will find endless excuses to avoid it regardless of how logically convinced you are of its benefits. However, if you create powerful associations between exercise and pleasure, increased energy, improved mood, sense of accomplishment, your unconscious mind will begin generating motivation and finding opportunities to engage in physical activity. The process of changing these neural associations requires what neuroscientists call Hebbian learning, the principle that neurons that fire together wire together. When you repeatedly experience two things simultaneously, your brain creates automatic connections between them. This is how phobias develop, when a neutral stimulus becomes associated with fear, and it's also how positive anchors form when specific triggers become associated with empowering states. Creating positive neural associations requires engaging your whole neurology, your thoughts, emotions, physiology, and imaginations, simultaneously and repeatedly. This is why Tony Robbins events involve not just intellectual content, but intense emotional experiences combined with physical movement and vivid visualization. These multi-sensory experiences create stronger neural pathways than purely mental approaches. The reticular activating system represents another crucial component of mental reprogramming. This network of neurons in your brainstem acts like a filter, determining which of the millions of pieces of information available to your senses actually reach your conscious awareness. It operates like the zoom function on a camera, focusing your attention on whatever you have programmed it to notice. When you clearly define goals, repeatedly visualize outcomes, and consistently focus on specific possibilities, you program your reticular activating system to notice opportunities, resources, and connections that support those outcomes. Suddenly, you begin seeing solutions that were always available but filtered out by previous programming. Coincidences multiply. The right people appear at the right time. Resources become available exactly when needed. This is not magic, but neuroscience. Your brain is designed to help you succeed at whatever you consistently focus on, but it needs clear direction about what constitutes success. Vague desires produce vague results, while specific, emotionally charged goals create precise programming that directs your unconscious mind to support their achievement. The practice of mental rehearsal utilizes your brain's inability to distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. When you visualize performing an action with sufficient detail and emotional engagement, your motor cortex activates as if you were physically performing that action. Your nervous system rehearses the neural patterns, making actual performance more smooth and automatic when the time comes. Professional athletes have long understood this principle, spending hours mentally rehearsing perfect performances. Studies show that mental practice alone can improve physical performance almost as much as actual physical practice. This same principle applies to any skill or behavior you wish to develop: public speaking, social confidence, creative expression, leadership presence. The key to effective mental rehearsal lies in creating visualizations that engage all your senses and emotions, not just visual imagery. You want to see, hear, feel, and even smell and taste the experience of achieving your desired outcomes. The more vivid and emotionally engaging your mental rehearsals, the stronger the neural pathways you create. Eckhart Tolle's approach to mind transformation focuses on developing what he calls witness consciousness, the ability to observe your thoughts and emotional patterns without automatically identifying with them. This creates space between stimulus and response, allowing you to choose your reactions consciously, rather than being driven by automatic programming. This practice of conscious observation gradually weakens the neural pathways that support unconscious reactivity, while strengthening the pathways associated with conscious choice. Instead of being hijacked by anger, fear, or other intense emotions, you develop the capacity to feel them fully while maintaining your center and choosing appropriate responses. Louise Hay's work with affirmations creates neuroplastic change through repetition and emotional engagement. When you repeatedly think new thoughts while feeling positive emotions, you create and strengthen neural pathways that support those thoughts. Over time, these new pathways become more automatic than the old ones, literally changing your default thought patterns. The effectiveness of affirmations increases dramatically when combined with alpha brainwave states, the relaxed but alert state of consciousness that occurs during meditation, just before sleep or just after waking. In alpha states, your subconscious mind becomes more receptive to new programming because the critical, analytical functions of your conscious mind are less active. Environmental design plays a crucial role in mental reprogramming because your brain is constantly influenced by external stimuli. The books you read, the music you listen to, the conversations you engage in, and the people you spend time with all contribute to the neural patterns that shape your thoughts and emotions. Creating an environment that supports your desired mental states involves consciously choosing inputs that reinforce empowering beliefs and positive emotions, while minimizing exposure to negative programming. This might involve curating your social media feeds, choosing uplifting music, reading inspiring books, or spending time with people who embody the qualities you wish to develop. Sleep provides a particularly powerful opportunity for mental reprogramming because your unconscious mind remains active while your conscious mind rests. Playing affirmations, guided meditations, or educational content while you sleep can influence your subconscious programming, though the effectiveness varies among individuals. The practice of gratitude creates profound neuroplastic changes by training your brain to notice and appreciate positive aspects of your experience. Regular gratitude practice strengthens neural pathways associated with optimism, contentment, and resilience, while weakening pathways associated with complaining, victimhood, and scarcity thinking. Advanced mental reprogramming involves understanding the role of identity in maintaining behavioral patterns. Your brain works continuously to ensure that your actions align with your self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles with money, your unconscious mind will sabotage financial success to maintain consistency with this identity. However, when you genuinely shift your identity to someone who manages money wisely, your behaviors automatically align with this new self-concept. The transformation of identity requires more than just changing beliefs about what you can do. It requires changing beliefs about who you are. This shift occurs through consistently acting in ways that align with your desired identity. Even before you fully believe in it, your brain updates your self-concept based on evidence from your actions, creating a positive feedback loop that reinforces the new identity. The ultimate goal of rewiring your mind is not to eliminate all negative thoughts or challenging emotions, but to develop the neural flexibility to choose your responses consciously. You want to create a brain that serves your highest aspirations, rather than being enslaved by unconscious programming, inherited from your past, or absorbed from your environment. This neurological transformation represents one of the most empowering discoveries of modern science, that you are not condemned to repeat the patterns of your past indefinitely. Your brain possesses the magnificent capacity to change itself based on what you choose to focus on, practice, and believe. Every moment offers a new opportunity to strengthen the neural pathways that support your highest vision and weaken those that keep you trapped in limitation. Chapter 5: Emotional Mastery. From victim to victor. Within the landscape of human experience, emotions serve as the bridge between the invisible realm of thought and the visible realm of action. They are the energy that transforms mental concepts into physical reality, the force that propels you toward your dreams or paralyzes you in fear. Your emotional patterns determine not only how you feel about your life, but what you actually create in your life. Because emotions drive behavior, and behavior creates results. Tony Robbins revolutionized the understanding of emotional mastery by recognizing that emotions are not random experiences that happen to you, but predictable responses that you can learn to influence and direct. He discovered that every emotion follows a specific recipe that involves your physiology, your focus, and the meaning you assign to events. By understanding and adjusting these components, you can literally change how you feel in any moment. This revelation transforms your relationship with challenging emotions from helpless victim to conscious participant. Instead of being at the mercy of anger, fear, sadness, or frustration, you develop the capacity to feel these emotions fully while maintaining your center and choosing responses that align with your highest values. Emotional mastery is not about eliminating difficult emotions, but about developing the wisdom and skill to navigate the full spectrum of human feeling with grace and intelligence. The first key to emotional mastery lies in understanding the difference between emotions and emotional states. Emotions are natural responses to specific stimuli: fear when facing danger, joy when achieving goals, sadness when experiencing loss. These responses serve important functions and provide valuable information about your environment and needs. Emotional states, however, are prolonged patterns of feeling that can persist long after the triggering stimulus has passed. Depression, chronic anxiety, persistent anger, or habitual pessimism represent emotional states rather than appropriate emotional responses to current circumstances. These states often reflect unconscious patterns of focus, meaning-making, and physiology that have become automatic through repetition. The transformation from victim to victor begins with recognizing your role in creating your emotional states. While you cannot control every event that occurs in your life, you have tremendous influence over your emotional responses to those events. This influence operates through three primary channels that Tony Robbins calls the triad: physiology, focus, and meaning. Your physiology, your posture, breathing patterns, facial expressions, and movement directly influences your emotional state. When you slouch, breathe shallowly, and move sluggishly, you create the physical foundation for depression and lethargy. When you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with energy, you create the physical foundation for confidence and vitality. This mind-body connection works in both directions. Just as emotions affect your physiology affects your emotions. By consciously adjusting your physical state, you can immediately begin shifting your emotional state. This is why Tony Robbins incorporates so much physical movement, dynamic breathing, and powerful postures into his teachings. He understands that lasting emotional change must involve the body, not just the mind. Your focus, what you pay attention to, moment by moment, represents the second component of the emotional triad. Your brain cannot focus on everything simultaneously, so whatever you consistently direct your attention toward becomes your emotional reality. If you focus on what's wrong, missing, or threatening, you will feel frustrated, anxious, or angry. If you focus on what's working, available, or possible, you will feel grateful, excited, or peaceful. The practice of conscious focus requires developing awareness of your habitual attention patterns. Most people have unconscious focusing habits that were formed in childhood and continue operating automatically into adulthood. Some people habitually focus on problems, limitations, and potential threats, a pattern that creates chronic stress and pessimism. Others naturally focus on solutions, possibilities, and potential benefits, a pattern that generates optimism and resilience. The third component, meaning, represents the stories you tell yourself about what events mean about your life, your future, and your identity. The same event can generate completely different emotions depending on the meaning you assign to it. Being rejected for a job can mean you're not good enough, or it can mean you're being guided toward an even better opportunity. A relationship ending can mean you're unlovable, or it can mean you're being freed to find a more compatible partner. Viktor Frankl demonstrated this principle powerfully during his imprisonment in Nazi concentration camps. While he could not control his horrific external circumstances, he could choose what those circumstances meant to him. By finding meaning in his suffering as preparation for helping others, as an opportunity to test his inner strength, as material for future contributions to humanity, he was able to maintain hope and dignity under conditions that destroyed many others. Louise Hay's approach to emotional healing focused particularly on the meanings attached to past experiences. She discovered that many people remain emotionally trapped by events from years or decades ago, not because the events themselves continue to occur, but because they continue to assign disempowering meanings to those experiences. The process of meaning transformation involves examining the stories you tell yourself about challenging experiences and consciously choosing interpretations that serve your growth and empowerment. This doesn't mean denying or minimizing difficult experiences, but rather extracting wisdom, strength, and compassion from them, instead of perpetuating victimhood and resentment. Eckhart Tolle addressed emotional mastery through the lens of presence and acceptance. He recognized that most emotional suffering stems from resistance to what is happening in the present moment, arguing with reality, wishing circumstances were different, or creating stories about what current events mean about the future. When you learn to meet present moment experience with acceptance rather than resistance, even challenging emotions lose their power to create suffering. You can feel anger, sadness, fear, or frustration without being consumed by these emotions. They become temporary weather patterns moving through the sky of your consciousness, rather than defining truths about your reality. This practice of emotional acceptance requires distinguishing between feeling emotions and being identified with emotions. When you feel angry, you are experiencing a temporary state. When you believe you are an angry person, you have become identified with that emotion as part of your identity. The first allows for natural flow and resolution. The second creates chronic emotional patterns that resist change. The development of emotional intelligence involves learning to feel emotions fully without losing your center or making impulsive decisions based on temporary feeling states. This requires what psychologists call distress tolerance, the ability to experience difficult emotions without immediately trying to escape, suppress, or numb them through distraction, substances, or compulsive behaviors. Many emotional problems stem from poor distress tolerance. When people cannot tolerate feeling anxious, they develop avoidance behaviors that limit their lives. When they cannot tolerate feeling sad, they suppress grief and never complete natural healing processes. When they cannot tolerate feeling angry, they either explode inappropriately or implode into depression and resentment. Building distress tolerance involves practicing staying present with challenging emotions, while maintaining perspective about their temporary nature. All emotions, even intense ones, naturally rise and fall like waves when you don't resist them or fuel them with mental storytelling. The key is learning to surf these waves rather than being overwhelmed by them. Advanced emotional mastery includes the cultivation of what Tony Robbins calls beautiful states, emotional patterns characterized by love, gratitude, playfulness, and contribution. These states not only feel wonderful, but also enhance your cognitive abilities, strengthen your immune system, improve your relationships, and increase your creative capacity. Beautiful states are not dependent on external circumstances, but can be cultivated through conscious practice. The regular cultivation of gratitude, for example, literally rewires your brain to notice and appreciate positive aspects of your experience. Acts of service and contribution naturally generate feelings of connection and meaning that transcend personal concerns and limitations. The practice of emotional anchoring allows you to access empowering states on command by associating specific triggers with desired emotional experiences. When you combine vivid recall of peak emotional states with specific physical gestures, words, or visualizations, you create neural pathways that allow you to recreate those states when needed. Professional performers use anchoring extensively to access confidence, creativity, and flow states during important performances. You can use the same techniques to access calm during stressful situations, confidence during challenges, or love during conflicts. The journey from victim to victor culminates in what Robbins calls emotional fitness, the ability to experience the full range of human emotions while maintaining your capacity for wise decision-making and loving action. Emotionally fit people don't avoid difficult emotions or cling to pleasant ones. They flow with the natural rhythms of feeling while remaining grounded in their deeper purpose and values. This emotional fitness allows you to use emotions as information rather than being controlled by them. Fear alerts you to potential dangers that require attention or preparation. Anger signals that something important to you is being threatened or violated. Sadness indicates that you need to grieve something you have lost or never had. Joy confirms that you are aligned with your deepest values and desires. Emotional mastery ultimately reveals that you are not your emotions, but the consciousness that experiences them. This recognition doesn't diminish the importance or intensity of emotional experience, but provides a stable foundation from which to navigate the ever-changing landscape of feeling. From this foundation, you can respond to life's challenges with wisdom rather than reactivity, love rather than fear, and creativity rather than limitation. Chapter 6. Creating Your Vision, the Art of Manifestation. In the vast field of infinite possibility that surrounds and permeates your existence, thoughts function as seeds that, when combined with emotion and consistent action, grow into the physical experiences of your life. The art of manifestation is not about magical thinking or wishful hoping, but about understanding and applying the natural laws that govern how consciousness creates reality through focused intention, aligned energy, and persistent action. Tony Robbins built his approach to achievement around what he calls the science of achievement, the systematic understanding of how to turn any vision into reality. He recognized that successful manifestation requires more than just positive thinking. It demands clarity of outcome, compelling reasons, massive action, sensory awareness of progress, and the flexibility to adjust strategies as needed. This scientific approach to manifestation removes the guesswork and mysticism, replacing them with proven principles that anyone can apply. The foundation of effective manifestation begins with absolute clarity about what you truly desire. Most people live in a fog of vague wishes and conflicted intentions, wondering why their dreams never materialize. They want more money, but fear the responsibility that comes with wealth. They desire loving relationships, but believe they're unworthy of deep connection. They dream of success, but unconsciously associate it with stress, corruption, or loss of authenticity. This internal conflict creates what Robbins calls mixed messages that prevent clear manifestation. Your unconscious mind cannot move toward outcomes that generate contradictory emotions or conflicting beliefs. The first step in conscious creation involves identifying and resolving these internal conflicts until your entire being aligns around your vision. The process of clarifying your vision requires going beyond surface desires to discover what you truly want to experience and contribute through your life. Instead of just wanting $1 million, you might discover that you want the freedom, security, and ability to contribute that wealth would provide. Instead of just wanting a romantic relationship, you might realize you want the intimacy, growth, and partnership that a conscious relationship offers. This deeper level of clarity helps you identify multiple pathways toward your core desires and prevents you from becoming overly attached to specific forms or timing. When you focus on the essence of what you want to experience rather than rigid pictures of how it must look, you allow the universe to deliver your desires in ways that might exceed your limited imagination. Eckhart Tolle's perspective on manifestation emphasizes the importance of creating from presence rather than from ego-driven wanting. When your desires arise from a felt sense of completeness and connection to the present moment, they become expressions of your authentic nature rather than attempts to fill internal emptiness or prove your worth to others. Manifestation from presence carries a different quality than manifestation from lack. When you create from wholeness, your actions flow naturally and joyfully, rather than being driven by desperation or fear. Opportunities arise synchronistically, rather than through forced effort. The process itself becomes fulfilling rather than merely a means to an end. Louise Hay's approach to manifestation operated through the power of affirmation and the transformation of limiting beliefs about deservingness. She understood that many people sabotage their own manifestation efforts through unconscious beliefs that they don't deserve good things, that success requires sacrificing their integrity, or that taking care of their own needs is selfish. Her work involved identifying and healing these self-worth issues so that people could receive the good that the universe was constantly offering them. She often said that the universe is always saying yes to your dominant beliefs and expectations. If you believe you deserve struggle, the universe provides struggle. If you believe you deserve abundance, the universe provides abundance. The process of manifestation operates through what quantum physicists call the observer effect, the phenomenon where the act of observation influences what gets observed. Your focused attention and expectation literally influences which of infinite potential realities becomes your actual experience. This is not metaphysics but demonstrable science, though its implications extend far beyond the laboratory. When you consistently focus on specific outcomes with emotional engagement and confident expectation, you begin collapsing the wave of potential into particular experiences. Your reticular activating system starts noticing opportunities and resources that support your vision. Your unconscious mind begins generating ideas and insights that move you toward your goals. Your energy and enthusiasm attract people and circumstances that accelerate your progress. Effective manifestation requires what Napoleon Hill called definiteness of purpose, a clear written statement of exactly what you intend to create, by when you intend to create it, and what you're willing to give in exchange for its achievement. This definiteness provides direction for your unconscious mind and clarity for the universe about what you're truly committed to creating. The emotional component of manifestation involves generating the feelings you would experience if your vision were already realized. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. So when you feel grateful, excited, and fulfilled as if your desires have already manifested, you create the energetic template that draws those experiences into your reality. This emotional alignment must be genuine, rather than forced. Trying to feel positive when you actually feel doubtful or frustrated creates internal conflict that impedes manifestation. Instead, work with whatever emotions are present, gradually shifting them toward alignment through appreciation of what you already have and excitement about what you're creating. The practice of visualization serves as a powerful tool for manifestation, but only when it engages all your senses and emotions rather than just visual imagery. Effective visualization involves seeing, hearing, feeling, and even smelling and tasting the experience of achieving your vision. The more vivid and emotionally engaging your mental rehearsals, the stronger the neural pathways you create, and the more magnetic you become to those experiences. Advanced visualization includes imagining not just the achievement of your goals, but the person you must become to achieve and maintain them. This helps you begin embodying the qualities, habits, and mindset that your vision requires, making its manifestation more natural and sustainable. The action component of manifestation involves taking consistent steps toward your vision while remaining open to unexpected opportunities and pathways. Many people make the mistake of either taking action without clear intention or maintaining clear intention without taking action. Both components are required for effective manifestation. Inspired action feels different from forced action. When you're aligned with your vision and connected to your deeper purpose, right action often arises spontaneously from inner guidance rather than from logical analysis. You find yourself in the right place at the right time. You meet exactly the right people, Resources appear when needed. Obstacles transform into opportunities. Tony Robbins emphasizes the importance of modeling successful people who have already achieved what you desire. By studying their strategies, beliefs, and behaviors, you can accelerate your own manifestation process, rather than starting from scratch. Success leaves clues, and these clues can dramatically shorten your learning curve. The principle of contribution adds tremendous power to personal manifestation efforts. When your vision includes how your success will benefit others and contribute to something larger than yourself, it aligns with the fundamental interconnectedness of existence. The universe seems to support endeavors that serve the greater good more readily than purely self-serving goals. Environmental alignment supports manifestation by surrounding yourself with people, images, and experiences that reinforce your vision. This might involve creating vision boards, choosing books and media that inspire your goals, spending time with people who embody what you're creating, or visiting places that represent your desired lifestyle. The practice of gratitude accelerates manifestation by placing you in energetic alignment with receiving. When you appreciate what you already have, you send a signal to the universe that you recognize and value good things when they appear in your life. This creates a magnetic quality that attracts even more to appreciate. Patience and divine timing represent perhaps the most challenging aspects of conscious manifestation. While you can influence the process significantly, you cannot control all the variables that affect timing. Some manifestations occur quickly, while others require extensive preparation and alignment before they can occur sustainably. Learning to hold your vision with passionate commitment while remaining unattached to specific timelines allows the manifestation process to unfold organically. This balance between intention and surrender, effort and allowing, represents the mastery of conscious creation. The ultimate understanding of manifestation reveals that you are not separate from what you seek to create, but are the very consciousness through which all creation occurs. When this recognition dawns, manifestation becomes less about getting what you want and more about expressing what you are. Your life becomes an artwork, a continuous creation that reflects and expresses your deepest nature and highest vision. Chapter 7. Building Unshakable Inner Strength. In the deepest chambers of your being lies a strength so profound, so unassailable, that no external circumstance can touch its core. This is not the brittle strength of denial or the aggressive strength of domination, but the quiet, enduring strength that comes from knowing who you truly are beneath the changing tides of fortune and misfortune. It is the strength that allows you to bend without breaking, to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, to love completely without losing yourself. This inner strength reveals itself most clearly during times of crisis, challenge, and loss. When everything familiar falls away, when the structures you relied upon crumble, when the future becomes uncertain, something within you either collapses or awakens. Those who have cultivated inner strength discover a reservoir of resilience they didn't know existed. Those who have lived primarily from external sources of security find themselves adrift in an ocean of uncertainty. Tony Robbins understood this distinction intimately through his own journey from poverty and family dysfunction to becoming one of the world's most influential teachers. His early experiences with his mother's abuse, his family's financial struggles, and his own battles with weight and self-worth taught him that external circumstances could not be relied upon for lasting happiness or security. This realization forced him to develop internal resources that no external force could take away. The development of inner strength begins with the recognition that life will inevitably present challenges that cannot be avoided, controlled, or predicted. Relationships will end. Health will fluctuate. Financial circumstances will change. Dreams will sometimes be delayed or require radical redirection. The question is not whether you will face difficulties, but how you will meet them when they arrive. Most people unconsciously organize their lives around avoiding pain, difficulty, and discomfort. This avoidance strategy may provide temporary relief, but it gradually weakens your capacity to handle challenges when they inevitably arise. Like muscles that atrophy from lack of use, your resilience diminishes when you consistently choose comfort over growth, safety over stretch, familiar over unknown. True inner strength develops through consciously engaging with challenges, rather than avoiding them. This doesn't mean seeking unnecessary suffering or manufacturing problems where none exist. It means approaching the difficulties that naturally arise in life as opportunities to strengthen your emotional and spiritual muscles, rather than as evidence that something has gone wrong. Eckhart Tolle's contribution to understanding inner strength emerged from his recognition that most suffering comes not from challenging circumstances themselves, but from resistance to those circumstances. When you argue with reality, wish things were different, or create stories about why difficulties shouldn't be happening, you add layers of mental and emotional suffering to whatever practical challenges you face. The practice of acceptance forms the foundation of unshakable inner strength. This acceptance is not passive resignation or giving up on positive change. It is the mature recognition that you cannot always control what happens to you, but you can always choose how you respond to what happens. This choice point, the space between stimulus and response, represents the epicenter of your personal power. Louise Hay's approach to building inner strength focused on healing the self-critical voice that weakens confidence and resilience. She recognized that many people carry an internal dialogue so harsh and unforgiving that they face every challenge with an additional burden of self-judgment and self-doubt. How can you develop strength when your own inner voice constantly tells you that you're inadequate, doomed to fail, or inherently flawed? The transformation of self-talk represents one of the most immediate and powerful ways to build inner strength. When you learn to speak to yourself with the same compassion, encouragement, and understanding you would offer a good friend, you create an internal environment where resilience can flourish rather than struggle to survive against constant criticism. Inner strength manifests through several key qualities that can be cultivated through conscious practice. The first is emotional regulation, the ability to feel strong emotions without being overwhelmed by them or making impulsive decisions based on temporary feeling states. This involves developing what psychologists call distress tolerance, the capacity to experience difficulty without immediately trying to escape it through distraction, numbing, or avoidance. The second quality is perspective keeping, the ability to see current challenges within a larger context of time, meaning, and possibility. When you can view temporary setbacks against the backdrop of your entire life journey, they lose some of their power to devastate or define you. What seems catastrophic in the moment often reveals itself as preparation, redirection, or even unexpected gift when viewed from a longer-term perspective. The third quality is self-reliance, not the isolation of believing you need no one, but the confidence that you can handle whatever life presents, while also being wise enough to seek support when appropriate. Self-reliant people don't depend on others for their basic emotional stability, sense of worth, or life direction, but they understand that connection and collaboration enhance rather than threaten their independence. The fourth quality is meaning-making, the ability to extract purpose, wisdom, and growth from even the most difficult experiences. Viktor Frankl demonstrated this capacity powerfully during his imprisonment in Nazi concentration camps, finding meaning in his suffering that not only helped him survive, but provided the foundation for his later contributions to psychology and humanity. The practice of voluntary discomfort serves as a powerful method for building inner strength before you need it. This might involve cold showers, challenging physical exercise, extended periods of silence, fasting, or deliberately putting yourself in situations that stretch your comfort zone. By choosing temporary discomfort when you don't have to, you develop confidence in your ability to handle involuntary discomfort when it arrives. Meditation and mindfulness practices build inner strength by training your capacity to observe thoughts and emotions without being swept away by them. When you can watch anxiety arise and pass without identifying with it as your anxiety, when you can notice anger and frustration without being controlled by these emotions, you develop an unshakable center that remains peaceful, regardless of what moves through your awareness. The cultivation of gratitude provides another pathway to inner strength by training your attention to notice and appreciate what is working, rather than focusing exclusively on what is missing or wrong. Grateful people are not naive about life's challenges, but they maintain perspective about the fullness of their series, rather than being consumed by its difficulties. Physical strength often mirrors and supports emotional and spiritual strength. When you know that your body can handle physical challenges, endure discomfort, and recover from stress, you naturally develop greater confidence in your overall resilience. This is why many spiritual traditions incorporate physical practices, not for vanity or appearance, but because embodied strength supports psychological strength. The practice of service to others builds inner strength by connecting you to something larger than your personal concerns and circumstances. When you focus on how you can contribute, help, or serve, your own problems naturally shrink in perspective. You discover that you are stronger than you realized, and that your strength grows when it is shared rather than hoarded. Spiritual connection, however you understand or experience it, provides perhaps the deepest source of unshakable inner strength. When you know yourself as connected to something infinite and eternal, temporary difficulties lose their power to define or defeat you. This connection might come through traditional religious practice, meditation, time in nature, creative expression, or simply moments of stillness when the boundaries between self and cosmos dissolve. The development of inner strength is ultimately a journey of coming home to yourself, discovering that everything you need to handle life's challenges already exists within your own being. This doesn't eliminate the value of external support, resources, and connection, but it frees you from depending on these things for your basic sense of stability and worth. As inner strength develops, you begin to welcome challenges as opportunities rather than dreading them as threats. You discover that difficulty often precedes breakthrough, that chaos frequently signals transformation, and that your greatest strengths often emerge from working skillfully with your deepest wounds and fears. This inner strength becomes a gift not only to yourself, but to everyone whose life touches yours. Strong people create space for others to be vulnerable. Centered people help others find their own center. Those who have learned to navigate storms with grace become beacons of hope for others still learning to manage turbulence. The ultimate paradox of inner strength is that it grows not through hardening yourself against life, but through opening more completely to the fullness of human experience. True strength is soft enough to feel everything, and solid enough to remain centered while feeling it. This strength does not protect you from life's difficulties, but transforms your relationship with them, allowing you to dance with uncertainty rather than being paralyzed by it. Chapter 8. The Alchemy of Gratitude and Forgiveness. Within the human heart lie two transformative forces, so powerful that they can literally transmute the lead of suffering into the gold of wisdom, the darkness of resentment into the light of compassion. Gratitude and forgiveness represent perhaps the most sophisticated emotional technologies available to consciousness, capable of healing decades of pain, transforming toxic relationships, and opening channels of abundance that seemed permanently blocked by bitterness and limitation. These are not merely feel-good practices or spiritual platitudes, but precise instruments for reshaping your neurological patterns, your energetic frequency, and your capacity to receive and create good in your life. Science has revealed that both gratitude and forgiveness produce measurable changes in brain structure, immune function, cardiovascular health, and overall life satisfaction. They are, quite literally, medicine for the soul. Tony Robbins discovered the transformative power of gratitude during his own journey from poverty and despair to prosperity and fulfillment. He recognized that successful people in every field shared one common characteristic: they consistently found reasons to be grateful even in the midst of challenges. This was not naive optimism or denial of problems, but a sophisticated understanding that appreciation is a creative force that multiplies whatever you focus on with genuine thankfulness. The practice of gratitude works by fundamentally altering your perception of reality. Instead of scanning your environment for threats, problems, and inadequacies, the default mode of human consciousness inherited from our survival-oriented ancestors, you train your attention to notice gifts, opportunities, and abundance that were always present, but previously overlooked. This shift in focus creates what neuroscientists call positive neuroplasticity, the strengthening of neural pathways associated with optimism, resilience, and well-being. When you consistently practice gratitude, your brain literally rewires itself to notice more things to be grateful for, creating an upward spiral of appreciation and positive experience. But gratitude must be genuine to be transformative. Forced positivity, or superficial thankfulness, actually creates internal conflict and can increase stress rather than reducing it. True gratitude arises from a sincere recognition of value, benefit, or beauty in your experience. It cannot be faked or manufactured, only discovered and cultivated. The development of authentic gratitude often begins with appreciating the simplest aspects of existence: the breath moving effortlessly in and out of your lungs, the miracle of consciousness that allows you to experience anything at all. the incredible complexity of your body, performing millions of functions without your conscious direction. These basic appreciations provide a foundation for recognizing the extraordinary nature of ordinary existence. Louise Hay understood that gratitude serves as a powerful antidote to the victim consciousness that keeps people trapped in cycles of blame, resentment, and powerlessness. When you can find something to appreciate in even difficult circumstances, you shift from feeling like a victim of your conditions to recognizing yourself as a conscious participant in your experience. This doesn't mean being grateful for harmful situations or pretending that injustice is acceptable. Rather, it means finding the gifts hidden within challenges, the strength you discovered you possessed, the compassion you developed for others facing similar struggles, the clarity that emerged about what truly matters in your life. Eckhart Tolle's perspective on gratitude emerges from his understanding of presence and acceptance. He recognized that gratitude is the natural response of consciousness when it perceives reality without the distorting filter of mental commentary and resistance. When you see life as it actually is rather than through the lens of how it should be different, appreciation arises spontaneously. This form of gratitude extends beyond appreciation for favorable circumstances to include thankfulness for the opportunity to be conscious, to experience the full spectrum of human emotion, to participate in the grand adventure of existence, regardless of its particular forms. It is gratitude for being rather than gratitude for having. Forgiveness represents an even more profound form of emotional alchemy, capable of transforming the most toxic emotional states into sources of wisdom and strength. Yet forgiveness is perhaps the most misunderstood of all spiritual practices, often confused with condoning harmful behavior, forgetting painful experiences, or maintaining relationships that are unhealthy or unsafe. True forgiveness is none of these things. It is the mature recognition that holding on to resentment, anger, and blame ultimately harms you more than the person who originally caused the pain. It is a gift you give yourself, the gift of freedom from being emotionally chained to past experiences and the people who created them. Louise Hay's approach to forgiveness was deeply practical, emerging from her recognition that unforgiven grievances create energetic blockages that manifest as physical illness, relationship difficulties, and financial limitations. She observed that people who harbored deep resentments often struggled with health issues in parts of their body, symbolically related to their emotional wounds. The process of forgiveness begins not with excusing harmful behavior, but with acknowledging the full impact of what occurred. Many people try to forgive prematurely, before they have honestly faced the depth of their pain and anger. This bypassing approach creates a superficial peace that lacks the transformative power of authentic forgiveness. Genuine forgiveness requires what psychologists call trauma integration, the process of making meaning from painful experiences without denying their reality or minimizing their impact. This involves feeling whatever emotions are present, understanding how the experience shaped you, and gradually releasing the charge around the memories while extracting whatever wisdom and strength they contain. Tony Robbins developed powerful techniques for accelerating the forgiveness process by helping people understand the unconscious needs that drove their perpetrators' harmful behavior. This doesn't excuse the behavior or make it acceptable, but it provides a framework for understanding rather than demonizing, which allows the emotional charge to dissipate more quickly. When you recognize that people who cause harm are almost always operating from their own unhealed wounds, unconscious patterns, or desperate attempts to meet basic human needs, you can separate their behavior from your worth as a person. Their actions reflected their limitations, not your inadequacy. This understanding doesn't minimize the impact of their choices, but frees you from taking their behavior as evidence of something wrong with you. The practice of forgiveness often requires what Eckhart Tolle calls deep forgiveness, forgiveness not just of actions, but of the entire person, including their unconscious patterns, their conditioning, and their inability to act from a more evolved perspective at the time. This level of forgiveness recognizes that everyone is doing the best they can from their current level of consciousness and emotional development. This doesn't mean lowering your standards or accepting poor treatment, but rather understanding that people's capacity for love, respect, and conscious behavior is limited by their own healing and awakening. You can maintain strong boundaries while still holding compassion for their limitations. Self-forgiveness often proves more challenging than forgiving others, because you cannot distance yourself from your own mistakes and poor choices. The critical inner voice may insist that you deserve continued punishment, that forgiveness equals giving yourself permission to repeat harmful patterns, or that self-compassion is simply self-indulgence. Louise Hay's work revealed that self-forgiveness is often the key to all other forms of healing and transformation. When you can extend the same compassion to yourself that you would offer a good friend who made mistakes, you create an internal environment where growth and positive change become natural rather than forced. The practice of self-forgiveness involves recognizing that you made choices based on your level of awareness, emotional development, and circumstances at the time. With greater wisdom, you might choose differently, but you cannot change the past, only learn from it and apply that learning to current choices. Advanced gratitude practice involves appreciating not just positive experiences, but the entire curriculum of life, including its challenges and disappointments. This doesn't mean being grateful for harmful situations, but recognizing how even difficult experiences contributed to your strength, wisdom, and compassion. Similarly, advanced forgiveness includes appreciation for the role that painful experiences played in your development. Many people discover that their greatest wounds became the source of their greatest gifts, their deepest pain transformed into their most meaningful contributions to others. The integration of gratitude and forgiveness creates what might be called radical acceptance, the ability to embrace the fullness of your human experience without resistance or resentment. This acceptance doesn't mean passive resignation, but active engagement with life, from a place of emotional freedom, rather than reactive woundedness. When gratitude and forgiveness become established patterns rather than occasional practices, they transform your entire relationship with existence. You stop waiting for circumstances to be perfect before you can be happy, and instead find reasons for appreciation, regardless of conditions. You stop carrying the weight of accumulated resentments and instead travel light through life, free to respond to present circumstances with wisdom rather than reactivity. This emotional freedom represents one of the greatest gifts you can offer yourself and others. Free from the burden of resentment and filled with genuine appreciation, you become a source of healing and inspiration for everyone whose life touches yours. Your peace becomes contagious, your joy becomes magnetic, your freedom becomes an invitation for others to discover their own liberation from the prison of unforgiveness and ingratitude. Chapter 9. Living Your Highest Purpose. Deep within the architecture of your soul lies a calling, so unique, so essential to the fabric of existence, that the universe itself conspires to support its expression once you align with its frequency. This is not a career or a role you play, but the fundamental reason consciousness chose to express itself through your particular combination of talents, experiences, and perspective. Your highest purpose represents the intersection where your deepest gifts meet the world's greatest needs, where your personal fulfillment serves something infinitely larger than your individual concerns. This purpose is not something you must search for or create from nothing, but something you must remember and uncover from beneath the layers of conditioning, expectation, and fear that have accumulated over years of trying to fit in, be safe, or meet others' definitions of success. Like a signal that has always been broadcasting from your core, waiting for you to tune into its frequency, your purpose calls to you through moments of inexplicable joy, through activities that make you lose track of time, through the problems that break your heart, and the visions that light up your imagination. Tony Robbins understood that true fulfillment comes not from achieving external markers of success, but from aligning your daily actions with your deepest sense of purpose and contribution. He discovered that people who felt most satisfied with their lives, regardless of their material circumstances, were those who experienced their work and relationships as expressions of their core values and as vehicles for serving something beyond themselves. This alignment between purpose and action creates what psychologists call eudaimonic well-being, a profound sense of meaning and fulfillment that emerges when your life feels coherent, significant, and directed toward worthy goals. Unlike hedonic happiness, which depends on pleasurable experiences and favorable circumstances, eudaimonic well-being remains stable even during challenging periods because it is rooted in meaning rather than comfort. The discovery of your highest purpose often begins with paying attention to what moves you most deeply, not just what you enjoy, but what stirs something profound in your core. This might be injustice that breaks your heart and motivates you to action, beauty that fills you with inexplicable joy and wonder, or human potential that excites your vision of what's possible. These deep movements of your soul provide clues about the themes and directions of your purpose. If you are consistently moved by environmental destruction, your purpose may involve healing humanity's relationship with nature. If you are stirred by human suffering, your calling may center on developing and sharing tools for healing and transformation. If you are excited by human creativity and potential, your path may involve education, inspiration, or the creation of platforms where others can shine. Louise Hay's discovery of her purpose emerged from her own journey of healing from childhood trauma and cancer. She initially had no intention of becoming a teacher or healer, but as she transformed her own relationship with herself through self-love and affirmations, others began asking her to share what she had learned. Her purpose revealed itself through the natural overflow of her own healing work. This pattern repeats frequently in the discovery of life purpose. You heal, learn, or develop something for your own growth, and then find yourself called to share these gifts with others who face similar challenges. Your greatest wounds often become the source of your greatest contribution, transformed through your healing work into medicine for others still struggling with similar issues. Eckhart Tolle's understanding of purpose operates on multiple levels, distinguishing between what he calls outer purpose and inner purpose. Outer purpose involves the specific roles, projects, and contributions you make in the world, your career, creative expressions, relationships, and service. Inner purpose, however, involves the consciousness you bring to whatever you do, the presence and awareness that transforms ordinary activities into spiritual practice. From this perspective, living your highest purpose involves not just finding the right work or mission, but bringing awakened consciousness to whatever circumstances you find yourself in. A teacher fulfilling inner purpose brings presence, love, and genuine care to their students, regardless of the subject matter. A parent living purposefully uses everyday interactions as opportunities to model consciousness and unconditional love. This understanding frees you from the anxiety that you might miss your purpose or choose the wrong direction. While outer purpose may shift and evolve throughout your life, inner purpose remains constant to be as conscious, loving, and present as possible in whatever role you find yourself playing. The process of aligning with purpose often requires what Joseph Campbell called following your bliss, pursuing the activities, interests, and directions that generate authentic enthusiasm and energy, rather than those that you think you should pursue based on external expectations or logical analysis. Bliss in this context doesn't mean superficial pleasure or instant gratification, but the deep joy that arises when you engage with activities that express your authentic nature. This joy often comes with challenge, requiring you to stretch beyond your comfort zone, develop new skills, or face fears that have limited your expression. Many people resist following their bliss because it seems impractical, selfish, or unlikely to provide financial security. Yet those who have the courage to align their lives with their authentic enthusiasm often discover that the universe provides support in unexpected ways. Opportunities arise, synchronicities multiply, resources appear when needed. This isn't guaranteed, but it occurs frequently enough to suggest that there is wisdom in trusting your deepest inspiration. The fear that following your purpose might lead to financial insecurity reflects a limited understanding of how value creation works. When you express your unique gifts in service of something meaningful, you naturally create value for others. This value can be monetized in countless ways, many of which may not be obvious when you first begin following your inspiration. The key is to focus initially on expressing your gifts and serving in ways that feel authentic and meaningful, while remaining open to creative solutions for generating income from this expression. Many people who follow their purpose discover multiple revenue streams they never could have planned from a purely logical approach. The transition to purpose-driven living often occurs gradually, rather than through dramatic career changes or life overhauls. You might begin by volunteering for causes that move you, developing skills related to your interests during evenings and weekends, or gradually shifting your current work in directions that feel more aligned with your values. This gradual approach allows you to test and refine your understanding of your purpose, while maintaining financial stability. As your clarity and confidence grow, you can make increasingly bold moves toward full alignment, often discovering that each step creates the foundation and resources for the next one. Tony Robbins emphasizes the importance of connecting your purpose to service, understanding how your unique gifts can contribute to solving problems, creating value, and improving life for others. This service orientation transforms purpose from self-centered expression into contribution-centered creation, aligning your personal fulfillment with collective benefit. When your purpose serves others, it gains power and momentum that purely self-focused goals cannot generate. You tap into the universal tendency for life to support endeavors that enhance the well-being of the whole. Your work becomes effortless because it flows with rather than against the fundamental currents of existence. The development of a clear purpose statement can provide direction and motivation for major life decisions. This statement articulates not just what you want to accomplish, but why it matters, who it serves, and how it reflects your deepest values. A well-crafted purpose statement becomes a filter for opportunities, helping you say yes to directions that align with your mission and no to distractions that might dissipate your focus. Advanced understanding of purpose recognizes that it may evolve and deepen throughout your life. What calls to you at 20 may be different from what moves you at 40 or 60. This doesn't mean you were wrong about earlier purposes, but that consciousness naturally seeks new forms of expression as it matures and expands. The willingness to allow your purpose to evolve prevents you from becoming trapped in outdated definitions of your mission. You remain open to new inspirations, emerging gifts, and shifting circumstances that might redirect your contribution in ways you couldn't have anticipated. Living your highest purpose ultimately requires faith, not blind belief, but the mature trust that comes from repeatedly witnessing how life supports authentic expression and service. This faith allows you to take inspired risks, make difficult transitions, and persist through challenges, because you know that you are aligned with something larger than your personal agenda. This alignment transforms work from something you endure to earn money into something you would do even if you weren't paid, because it expresses who you are and serves what you love. Time becomes irrelevant because you lose yourself in activities that feel like play rather than labor. Success becomes inevitable because you are offering your authentic gifts in service of genuine needs. When you live from your highest purpose, your life becomes a work of art, a continuous creation that reflects and expresses your deepest values and highest vision. You stop waiting for retirement to begin really living and instead discover that every day offers opportunities to contribute, create and evolve in ways that matter. Your existence becomes a gift to the world, a unique note in the grand symphony of consciousness awakening to itself through countless individual expressions. Chapter 10. The Infinite Within You. As we reach the culmination of this journey together, you stand at the threshold of a recognition so profound, so revolutionary, that it has the power to transform not just your life, but your fundamental understanding of what it means to be human. You are not a small, separate self navigating a vast and indifferent universe. You are the universe itself, temporarily focused through the lens of individual awareness, awakening to its own infinite nature through your eyes, your heart, your consciousness. This is not metaphorical poetry, but the deepest truth accessible to human awareness. The consciousness that reads these words, the awareness that observes your thoughts and emotions, the presence that witnesses your experience. This is not produced by your brain or contained within your body. It is the same consciousness that animates every living being, the same awareness that pervades all existence, the same presence that is the source and substance of everything that appears in your experience. Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, and Louise Hay each pointed toward this ultimate recognition in their own way. Understanding that all personal development, spiritual practice, and healing work ultimately serves one purpose: removing the veils of conditioning and limitation that obscure your true nature. They knew that you are not broken and in need of fixing, not incomplete and requiring addition, not small and needing expansion. You are already whole, already perfect, already infinite. Temporarily forgetting this truth through your beautiful human experience. The hidden power you have been awakening throughout this journey is not separate from you, waiting to be developed or earned. It is your very essence, the fundamental nature of what you are beneath all the stories, roles, and identities you have accumulated. Every technique you have learned, every practice you have embraced, every shift in understanding you have experienced, all of this has been preparing you for this moment of recognition. When Tony Robbins teaches about unlimited potential, he is pointing toward the infinite creativity of consciousness, expressing itself through your unique perspective. When Eckhart Tolle speaks about the power of presence, he is guiding you to recognize yourself as the aware space in which all experience occurs. When Louise Hay encourages self-love and healing, she is helping you remember the unconditional love that is your true nature. This recognition transforms everything because it reveals that what you have been seeking outside yourself, love, peace, fulfillment, security, purpose, has always been your own nature, temporarily obscured by the search itself. Like someone wearing glasses who has forgotten they have them on and spends the day looking for them, you have been seeking what you already are, pursuing what you already possess, trying to become what you have never stopped being. The infinite within you is not a concept to be understood, but a reality to be lived. It cannot be grasped by the mind, because it is what the mind arises within. It cannot be achieved through effort, because effort is what creates the illusion of separation from it. It cannot be lost, because it is what you are, and it cannot be gained because you have never been without it. Yet this understanding must be integrated into your human experience to be truly transformative. Recognizing your infinite nature does not eliminate your personality, your goals, your relationships, or your responsibilities. Instead, it infuses all of these with deeper meaning and greater ease. You continue to be uniquely you, but you no longer identify exclusively with the limitations of personality and circumstance. From this expanded identity, challenges become opportunities for consciousness to know itself more fully. Relationships become vehicles for love, to recognize itself in apparent others. Work becomes service to the whole, through your particular gifts and talents. Every experience becomes a doorway for the infinite to explore itself through the miracle of finite perspective. The practices you have learned, presence, self-love, belief transformation, emotional mastery, manifestation, inner strength, gratitude, forgiveness, and purpose, all serve to align your human expression with this deeper truth. They are not steps toward becoming something you are not, but ways of removing what prevents your natural magnificence from shining through clearly. As you continue to embody this understanding, you become a beacon of awakening for others still lost in the illusion of separation and limitation. Not through preaching or teaching, but through your presence, your peace, your joy, your unconditional love, you become living proof that transcendence and transformation are possible, that the human potential is truly unlimited when aligned with its source. The hidden power within you is awakening now, has always been awakening, will always be awakening. It pulses with every heartbeat, breathes with every breath, observes through every glance, loves through every act of kindness. It is closer than your closest thought, more intimate than your most private feeling, more present than your present moment awareness. You are the power you have been seeking. You are the love you have been longing for. You are the peace you have been pursuing. You are the fulfillment you have been chasing. You are the infinite consciousness dreaming itself into form, awakening from the dream of limitation into the reality of boundless possibility. This is not the end of your journey, but the beginning of truly living from who you are. Every moment offers a fresh opportunity to choose from this infinite nature rather than from the conditioned patterns of the past. Every breath invites you to remember what you have always known. Every heartbeat calls you home to yourself. The universe has been waiting for this moment, not for you to become someone extraordinary, but for you to recognize the extraordinary being you have always been. Now awaken to your true nature, you can live as the magnificent, infinite, creative force of consciousness that you are, expressing through your unique human experience the boundless love, wisdom, and power that is your essence. The hidden power within you is hidden no more. It shines through your eyes, speaks through your voice, acts through your hands, loves through your heart. You are awake. You are alive. You are infinite. You are home. Welcome to the beginning of everything. Thank you for watching. If this journey of awakening has touched your heart and illuminated your path, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more transformational content. Share this message with anyone ready to discover the infinite power within themselves. Your awakening contributes to the awakening of all. Until next time, remember you are not just in the universe, you are the universe awakening to itself.